Morning, everyone.
Morning, Rabbi.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnah Gittin, Parak Ches, Chapter 8, Mishnah Tes, Mishnah 9. Today's Mishnah has been sponsored by the Garland children, Lezer Nishmas, their uncle, memory of their uncle, Gavriel ben Mishna. The Neshama should have an aliyah.
Amen.
Okay, let's just quickly read through the Mishnah from the beginning. Quickly just going through what we did yesterday. Hamigarish as Ishtay Balonima Befundiki, one who divorces his wife, and then she spends the night with him in an inn. People saw them going to seclusion, but nothing more. Beishamai Oimrim Einat Tzricha get Hemena get Sheni. She doesn't need a second get from him. Or Beisilal Oimrim Tzricha get Hemena get Sheni. Beisilal say she needs another get. Beisilal are concerned. Beisilal say we assume that if they were in seclusion, they had marital relations. They did so for the purposes of kedushin, meaning getting married again, so that their act is not just an act of znus, an act of just morality. And once the Adam see them go into seclusion, that's the same thing as seeing, being witnesses to the act of marital relations, and therefore Beis Hillel say she needs another get. Beis Shammai say she doesn't need another get because we do not assume that they cohabit, that they have marital relations, even though they were in seclusion, and therefore there was nothing there. There was nothing happened for the Adam to be able to be considered witnesses on kedushin. Umaydim emasai. The Mishnah said, when do we say this? Meaning, when does Beis Hillel say she needs another get? Bisman sheneskarshim nesuin. That's talking about when she was divorced from a complete marriage, nesuin. Umaydim eneskarshim ne'erisim. But they agree with Beis Shammai that if she was divorced from Erisin, meaning the first stage of marriage, which is the point that they're still not permitted to have marital relations, and after she was divorced from Erisin, they again went into seclusion. She'ena tzricha mena get sheni. In that case, she will not need another get, but she'en by gaspa, because he does not feel comfortable with her. He doesn't feel confident with her. Since they never have cohabited, we don't assume that they did so now, because they never did so until now, because they only had Erisin before. So that's what we did yesterday. So now the Mishnah starts something completely new. And it goes back to examples or cases where we say that a woman got married improperly because the get was not good, and she's considered negligent in the fact that she married with that get, and therefore all the penalties that were mentioned by a woman who commits adultery would apply to her also. That whole list of things we spoke about, that if she'd have a child from each of them, the child be considered a mamzer. She loses all the ksuba rights and everything. So here's a new case. Now, before we get into this case, we need an introduction. All right? This next case deals with a woman who remarried based on a get that was invalid, but it deals with a special kind of get known as a get makushar. Got that words? Get makushar literally means a knotted get. Okay? Now, the rabbis instituted... Excuse me?
Say that again.
A get makushar, a knotted get. The rabbis instituted this more complicated type of get for the sake of Kohanim, so they should not be able to divorce quickly. The concern is if a Kohen, who can be a little bit ill-tempered, gets angry at his wife and divorces her, can he remarry her?
No.
Can't remarry her when she's divorced. So therefore, in order to give the Kohen a chance to cool down before he actually divorces her, they instituted a more complicated type of get for a Kohen. It was prepared as follows. After writing one or two lines of the get, the scribe would fold the paper down over the blank space underneath and sew it closed. Got that? He would write two lines, fold it over, sew it up. He would then write one or two more lines, fold it, and sew it, and continue this way until it was finished. On the back of each fold, a witness would sign. That's how it works. You write a line or two, fold it over on the blank side, sew it up. Don't forget it's parchment. Sew it up. Write another two lines, fold it over, sew it up until the whole get is finished that way. Okay? Now, and where the witness is, on the back of each fold, you have a witness signing.
One.
One on each fold. You can have more than one witness at the end, but it's one on each fold. Okay? Now, a get makusher can have as many folds as desired, as long as it has at least 3. However, each fold must have the signature of a witness on the back. If one of the folds is missing a signature, the get is known as a get kareach, a bald get, because it's going to be blank. It's not going to. It's going to be a blank space. It's going to be a blank area, and is invalid. Based on this, the Mishnah teaches the following law. Okay, so that's the case here. This is the case. We're talking about it was supposed to. It's now. This is the background for the case, but the case actually is going to be a case where she got married with the invalid get. Meaning, instead of having a signature on each one of the folds, one of the folds did not have a signature. So even though you may have 2 witnesses, but if you have one fold that's blank, no witness on it, no good. Okay? So this is the background to understand the case, and this is the problem. Kanasa get kereach. If he married her with a bald get, it means again, the get that she received from her husband, which was from a Kohen, was a get makusher. It was folded over, sewn, and there were supposed to be witnesses on the back of each fold, and one of them was missing a witness. It was missing a signature. That makes that get makusher invalid. So what happens now? Teitze mizeh mizeh. She has to leave each one. She has to leave the first husband, and the second husband may never may never be married to them again. So again, the first husband, the get wasn't good. She married somebody else based on that get. So that's considered like adultery regarding the first husband. The second husband, who wasn't supposed to marry her with this invalid get, it's also considered, at least midrabanan, according to rabbinic law, that she committed adultery, and therefore, teitz mizeh mizeh, she has to leave both of them. There's no way she could ever be married to any of them. And at the end of the day, she's going to need a get. I'm assuming based on what we learned before, she needs a get from both of them. The first one she needs to get because she again, it wasn't a good get, right? Even though maybe that was again midrabanan not a good get, but it wasn't a good get. So, and she can't go back to him, so she has to be divorced from him. The second husband, really, according to Torah law, it was a kosher get. But midrabanan, it wasn't a kosher get. According to rabbinic law, it wasn't a kosher get, so she can't. So it's considered like she got married without a divorce. Okay, but she really was married, so she's going to need a divorce from him. Now, the Mishnah concludes, and all these ways, meaning all the penalties mentioned previously in Mishnah Hey and Mishnah 5, apply to her as well, because she should have shown her get to an expert before she remarried. Before she remarried, she should have showed the get to someone to make sure that it's okay. If she would have done that, the person who knows the laws of Gittin would have seen it's no good, and she never would have been married. But she didn't do that. That's considered negligence on her part, and therefore she gets all the penalties. But as the Bartanura points out, regarding what the previous Mishnah mentioned about the child being a mamzer from both of them, in this case, that is following the opinion of Rabbi Meir, who says, anybody who deviates from the way the Chachamim instituted how to do a get, Havlad mamzer, the child's considered a mamzer. Mamzer midrabanan. Now, that's from Meir's opinion, because don't forget, this invalidation of the get makusher is rabbanan. It's rabbinic. It's a rabbinic invalidation. So that means that really, according to Torah law, it was a good get. Right. She was divorced from the first guy. She could be married to the second guy. It's only midrabanan because he didn't do the get right. Now, Rameir says if you don't do the get right, even if it's only a rabbinic problem, Vlad mamzer, the kid's considered a mamzer. We don't paskin like that, and therefore, regarding the halacha as to the child being a mamzer, the child won't be a mamzer. Now again, the child wouldn't be a mamzer from the second husband, because the second husband she's really married to. Problem is she got married with a rabbinically not kosher get. So again, therefore, and she was really divorced from the first husband. She can be married to the second husband. According to Torah law, she is married to the second husband. Rabbinically, she shouldn't have gotten married because rabbinically her get was not valid. Okay, but if she has a child from the second husband, child's not going to be a mamzer. Because when the get is owned, according to the way we follow, the child will not be a mamzer because since the get, if the situation was that the get was invalid only because you didn't do how the Rabbanan, how the sages instituted to do a get, but really according to law it's kosher, the child's not going to be a mamzer. Okay. Now, if she were, before she before she if before she got a get from the second husband, she went back to the first husband and had a child, that child for sure be a mamzer because she's really married to the second husband. Okay, have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.